Dr. Paul is about to speak. Let's just listen in. We're projecting he did come in second in Minnesota. Let's listen.
Thank you, thank you.
President Paul! President Paul! President Paul! President Paul!
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for all your hard work, and believe it or not, we did very well tonight and have a very, very strong second place, and it's going to continue. But you know, we've had some good news today. Maybe you have seen, but there was a recent Reuters poll out just today. It's the first time that we came in second in a national poll in the Republican primary. And we do have to remember, you know, the straw vote is one thing, but then there's one other thing called delegates. Yeah! And that is where we excel. We know what to do about getting delegates. Even in a state that ended up a little confusing, you know, Nevada, I understand that we're going to do very well in Nevada in getting delegates. And of course, tonight, I've heard nothing but good stories about all of you staying around and going through the process, understanding the process, and voting and getting delegates. So when the dust settles, I think there's a very good chance that we're going to have the maximum number of delegates coming out of Minnesota. But there's some other good news, too, and it's an ongoing caucus, and it's over on the East Coast. I think it's the state called Maine. We're doing very well there, and we're going to hear some results on that on Saturday, and I think those results are going to be very good as well. But I want to really thank you for the effort, and the one thing that I am convinced of, those who join the Campaign for Liberty and promote this cause really believe in something. I keep thinking it must be a lot more fun believing in something than just campaigning for nothing. Matter of fact, that's what makes it easy going, because this is what the effort's been all about. And I have been so impressed. I've been involved for a long time, but it's been these last several years, especially since the last campaign 4 years ago. The world has changed dramatically, and our views are not only being accepted, they're being sought after, because for so long, people have said, as long as we're rich and as long as we can borrow money, as long as we can print money, and people will take care of us, and we won't have to worry. But guess what happened 4 years ago? All of a sudden, actually, the bankruptcy was declared. And this is the reason why the economy is in bad shape. The world economy is in bad shape. Everybody thinks we're going to bail them out, and they think the dollar is going to bail them out. And most Americans are saying, there's no way you can do it. There's no way you can keep the entitlement system and a debt rising at over $1 trillion a year. We have to challenge the entitlement system and the foreign policy that gives us these perpetual wars. The biggest problem we've had is convincing people who are in office that they're spending too much in Washington. Today, the American people are way ahead of the people in Washington. And quite frankly, I think it's important to know that there's only one candidate and only one campaign that offers real cuts. And in the first year of the new presidency, there'll be a $1 trillion cut from the budget. Every once in a while, people tell me, they said, Ron, you could do a lot better if you would just change your tune on this foreign policy stuff. But guess what? It's the foreign policy that has built our some people think foreign policy is separate from economic policy. But what usually happens, and it's been known in most recent history, is foreign policy is the economic policy. Fortunately, we never had to fight the Soviets. Of course, I was very much aware of the fight with the Soviets in the Cold War, having been in the military in the 60s. But lo and behold, the Soviets self-destructed because they expanded themselves too far around the world and they went bankrupt. And fortunately, we didn't have to fight them. And we, unfortunately, are facing the same problem. We have extended ourselves too far around the world. We've gotten involved in these wars that are unconstitutional. They've never been declared. We don't know why we're there. We don't know when they're over. So the most important thing a new president could do is bring our troops home. And it would save a lot of money. We don't need to pay for all this money to keep troops all around the world, 130 countries, 900 bases. But also, just think, bringing all the troops home rather rapidly, they would be spending their money here at home and not in Germany and Japan and South Korea. Good, tremendous boost to the economy. But you know, under wartime conditions, people generally get more careless about their civil liberties, and that is what's happened in this country. We have permitted our government to undermine our civil liberties, all in the name of safety and security. But we were told at the founding of this country that you should never sacrifice your liberties for safety or security, because you'll end up with neither. This is the reason I have come to the conviction you never have to sacrifice your liberty if you want to be safe. Never. But we now are living in an age where civil liberties are poorly protected. We have a Patriot Act that has canceled out the Fourth Amendment. We have had a bill, the National Defense Authorization Act, which now permits the arrest of American citizens by the military without a trial and put in prison indefinitely. That is not part of what America is all about, and those laws have to be repealed if we want to live in a true republic. Our government is too big. The bigger a government gets, the smaller our liberties become. Government is way too big, and that is why we're losing our liberties. We're losing our economic liberties as well as our personal liberties. So therefore, what we must do is cut back. Now, why? How did we get into this trouble? Yes, there's always an appetite for big government. There's always this temptation of getting something for free. And there's always the motivation, well, we'll help the poor people. The trouble is once you endorse the principle of the redistribution of wealth, even though pretend it's going to help the poor, guess what? The redistribution gets handed off to the rich, and they're the ones who benefit. They're the ones who become wealthy, and when they get into trouble, guess who gets the bailouts? The wealthy, the Wall Streeters and the bankers. This is the reason there should be no bailouts at all. But there's a simple little trick that they played on us and the American people, and that trick was played on us in the monetary system. They figured, you know, well, yes, it's a wealthy country. Freedom produces a lot of wealth, and that was fine. We can tax the people to a certain point, and then the people get annoyed. But we still, the politician still wants to pass out all the goodies, so they say, we'll keep borrowing, the credit is good, we keep borrowing, till interest rates go up. Aha, interest rates are going up, that's going to hurt the economy, so we have to have another gimmick. And that gimmick was invented in 1913. It was made a disaster in 1971, and that is the destruction of the currency through an illegal operation, an unconstitutional operation of the Federal Reserve System, which we should address and have a full audit and find out where and how they're spending all their money. You know, we get into so much trouble because the Constitution has been ignored, whether it's going to war or the Constitution still says that only gold and silver can be legal tender. So I would say that it would be very proper to send only people to Washington, and those who are there hold their feet to the fire, that we want people to obey the law of the land, which is the Constitution, and you can't print money, you can't go to war without a declaration, and you can't undermine our privacy any longer. The solution is not difficult. The solution was once well known in America, and that is when we understood and respected personal liberty. Understanding that liberty came, as the Declaration of Independence indicated, it came from our Creator. We have a right to our life. We have a right to our liberty. We should have a right to keep the fruits of all our labors. But we have undermined that productive system by having too much government, too much spending, too much borrowing, too much printing press of money, and too many regulations. So the reversal is to obey the Constitution and get the government out of the way. And people say, oh, then there'll be no regulations. No, the regulations would be tougher, because the people who are supposed to go bankrupt would go bankrupt and they wouldn't get bailed out. But the wonderful thing about a free society, it's a prosperous society. We all should be humanitarians. And unfortunately, we who advocate this position haven't done a very good job over the years, because we should have convinced people that those who grab the moral high ground and say that we're going to take care of the poor, what do? Welfarism and inflationism and socialism, they produce the poor. It's only freedom that produces the prosperity. It gives us the broadest distribution of wealth. It gives us the biggest middle class and the wealthiest of middle class. That is being undermined and destroyed, and the problem can be solved by just a true understanding and conviction and the restoration of individual liberty. The wonderful thing about the principles of liberty is it brings people together, because everybody won't use their liberty in the same way. But if you understand that, you will tolerate other people and how they spend their money and how they run their lives and what they do, as long as they don't hurt people. So for this reason, people of diversity would come together, because they don't want to lose their liberty. They respect other people's liberty as well. This is why the solution is not that difficult. We've had this experimentation. We had the greatest success, and we lost our faith and confidence, and that's what we need restored. We have to truly understand this. And it isn't going back to the old days. We don't have to go back to an old gold standard or back to those principles. We need to go back and pick up the pieces and advance it and modernize this. We need an advancement of the cause of liberty and the understanding of liberty. This is the only solution. If our goal be peace and prosperity, it is the only way you can achieve peace and prosperity. That should be our goal. It shouldn't be the goal of governments and mischief makers to run your life, to police what you do, to police other people around the world, nor to tell you how to run your economy and spend your money. It's the cause of liberty that we must restore, and we are well on our way, and we're going to keep this momentum. And thank you very much. Thank you.